Oh? What is when something else cries in Japanese? Like, I mean, I could think of ways to say that. I was just, like, wondering, what do they say there? In case you know. Nanika, okay. After decades. After decades. Hmm. It was the largest banquet hall in this huge hotel. The many guests that filled the room chattered and applauded the person receiving an award trophy on the top of the stage. The sign in front said Awards Ceremony from Japan's Greatest Publishers. And now I would like to begin the novel category. The winner is that fantasy adventure novel we all know so well. The story that started a worldwide movement that continues to grow in leaps and bounds. Sakutaro's Great Adventure. The projector in front of the audience showed a brief summary of the series. It was a lengthy fantasy adventure novel that was already more than 8 installments long. The thrilling fantasy story told of the adventures of Sakutaro, a cowardly Vegeta lion who makes friends, learns through his experience, and grows in his search for the one fragment. The main character's catchphrase, "I'll become the king of the beasts," was even one of the candidates for the Buzzwords of the Year award. In addition to being a thrill to read, the books also contained many messages for children to learn from, earning it high praise as an adventure novel that parents and kids could enjoy reading together. However, it hadn't received such praise from the beginning. With the first 6 volumes, it went almost entirely unnoticed. But last year, when foreign translations of the series began, it got its big break and suddenly became a huge topic of conversation. Is that like the same thing? Isn't that like kind of the same thing that happened to Higurashi, I think? Even before the series, the author had created quite a lot of works, but none of those achieved any public acclaim. However, after the sudden rise in notoriety, her previous works were being evaluated one after another. In that sense, it's probably fair to call her an author who went unrecognized for quite a long time. Miss Kotobuki, congratulations on your award! Your latest Sakutaro Goes to the Witch's Island was truly an excellent read. Publishing company executives repeatedly showered her with praise. Sakutaro's Great Adventure. The author's name was Kotobuki Yukari. Nearly all of her royalties were sent to a fund to support needy children, and she herself had served as the director at several protective institutions. Some envious people tried to call this fake charity, but the more that people learned about her, the more those voices withered and died away. Kotobuki Yukari. By now that name rang loud and clear across Japan. Kotobuki Yukari. She sat in a chair, cheerfully chatting with the people who came to greet her. Last year, she was diagnosed with the initial stages of cancer, and after the surgery, her physical strength dropped sharply. Because of this, even in the stand-up awards party, she was given a chair and sat down while greeting people. Some people lamented, saying that if only she had been 20, even 10 years younger, she might have left her mark in history as one of the greatest authors in the 21st century. It had taken so long for her to receive the praise she deserved. She could no longer be called young. Even so, her determination to write had not wavered in the slightest. The story had gone around that, even during her stay in the hospital, that most of her time had been spent typing away. She always said the same thing, that she hadn't finished telling everything she needed to tell. Did she mean that she hadn't fully completed Sakutaro's Great Adventure? When that question was asked by a journalist, this is how she answered. If by writing even one more book I can teach just one more child how to find happiness, then I will spend the rest of my life writing every book, every page that I can, because I still haven't fully conveyed the precious teachings I was given. Miss Kotobuki, congratulations on your award. I hear the movie adaptation has been getting splendid reviews as well. If you keep this up, you might even pass up Harry Potter's record. Harry the Potato. It was the name of a fantasy series that had become a worldwide hit. Oh man, thank you very much for your kind words. It's more than I deserve. Oh, I forgot to tell you. My name is X, head of Company X's first editorial department. It is an honor to meet you. I hope we have a chance to work together sometime. Actually, Miss Kotobuki, I apologize for being abrupt, but have you heard of the novelist known as Hachijo Toya? Hachijo Toya, you say? She remembered that name from several decades ago. She hadn't expected to ever hear it again. Do you know that name? Have you met Hachijo by any chance? No, I have not. I did go to visit once, but I was an unknown back then, and and since I suddenly barged into the publishing company office, it's hardly surprising that I was refused an interview. Oh, I didn't know that. Could it be that you're a fan of Hachijo's work? No, I just wanted to find out what sort of person she was. I see. Well, the truth is, about that novelist, Hachijo Toya would like to meet with you discreetly. To meet with me? Yes, not as a formal interview, but personally, off the record. If you're interested, we would be happy to arrange the meeting. But of course, this has nothing to do with work. Hachijo Toya wants to meet Kotobuki Yukari. Just like how I realized that Ito Ikuguro was Hachijo Toya, did she use my name to figure out my identity? The Rokkenjima mystery has been called one of the greatest social phenomena at the turn of the century. That uproar, which dragged in enthusiasts from across the world, suddenly subsided after an event held by Hachijo Toya, where she was going to unveil the diary of Ushirumiya Efa, which contained the truth. Though she had set up the event herself, she then outrageously disappeared without realizing the contents of the releasing the contents of the diary, drawing harsh criticism for doing so. However, a very obvious feeling had been revived in the public sphere that they had been prying into a terrible accident with many victims purely out of curiosity. And so the frenzy surrounding the Rokkenjima mystery had faded away quietly. Hachijo Toya, no, Ito Ikuguro. She caught the public eye as a forger of Rokkenjima mysteries. She claimed to have reached the truth and to release groundbreaking works of fiction one after another. She became famous as the driving force behind the Rokkenjima mystery. After realizing that Ito Ikuguro was Hachijo Toya, I went to her publishing company to ask for an interview, but I didn't get one. At the time, I despised her. Back in the beginning, I thought she might have used the Rokkenjima mystery as a publicity stunt to advance herself, but now I feel a bit grateful to her. If she hadn't refused to show the diary in such an outrageous way, the Rokkenjima catbox might still be the plaything of countless ghosts. Oh, I see. She was indeed a forger who had toyed with the catbox, and I still had an uneasy feeling about her. However, at the same time, she was the one who, practically speaking, allowed Rokkenjima to rest in peace. And did she really reach the truth? How had she reached something that seemed infinitely close to the truth, even from my perspective? Even now, after all these years, that's something I've wanted to know. What do you think, Miss Kotobuki? Of course, this is not an urgent request. I was told to tell you to take your time in making your decision if you wished. I understand. Does Hachijo Toya live near the city? I was told that a meeting near here would be satisfactory at any time. I see. In that case, can I ask you to arrange a meeting for us in a quiet coffee shop next Sunday? Yes, as you wish. Thank you very much. I believe Hachijo will be delighted as well. I have one condition. Yes, whatever you say. I am not going to discuss business, so please refrain from sending anyone from the editing department. But of course, we will do as you say. Madam Hachijo and I will meet alone, just the two of us. Can I count on you to keep that promise? Well, as to that, we would have appreciated if you kept this quiet, but... What is it? Well, the truth is, the works of Hachijo Toya were written by two people. To the outside world, those books were written by a single female author. But there is actually a second author. A male one. Hold the phone. The pair of them asked for a chance to meet you. As soon as I heard that, I felt a premonition. How had Hachijo Toya, a person with no connections to the Ushirumiya family, managed to write about it in such detail? I was already feeling a premonition of a certain kind of miracle. I have a very certain premonition right now myself. When I left on my journey, I abandoned the name of Ushirumiya Angie and stepped into a new life. By now things have settled down, but when the Sumadera family was still a threat, I wanted to distance myself from that name. Thanks to that, no one was able to get in touch with the new me anymore. However, now that Sakutaro's adventure has caught the public eye this year and made the name of Kotobuki Yukari famous, maybe it finally reached his ears. I used to play with a lion-stuffed animal called Sakutaro along with Maria Onechan. If those who knew this connected the name Sakutaro with my name, then it's only natural that they'd figure out who I was. The number of people who would be able to recognize me from that was very small. This person was also well-versed in detective novels and a man. I could only think of one person who matched. Yeah, me too. After all, I knew just how many detective novels he had piled up in his room from the time when his effects were gone through. It was almost the time we had arranged for our meeting. My heart was racing, almost like a girl in love for the first time. At the very instant that the arranged time came, I heard the sound of the chime on the door. It's Goda. I think Goda probably wouldn't even be alive anymore. I mean, it said it was decades later. And they appeared. I mean, he was not alive anyway, but if he had survived. It was a man sitting on a wheelchair and a woman pushing him. My eyes immediately fixed on the man in the wheelchair, and right away I saw the traces that remained on his face. There's no doubt about it. He's my brother. My brother, Ushinomiya Butler. Why do they have to use that? Couldn't they make him, like, in a proper wheelchair and all? But whatever, I don't care. When our eyes met, he gave a little bow. I hurried to my feet and bowed back. It was a somewhat exaggerated and silly way for a pair of siblings to greet each other after several decades apart. However, my mind was already blank. The miracle I had waited for all this time was now a reality. Are you Miss Kotobuki Yukari? Yes, I am. And you two must be Hachijo Toya. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you very much for letting us borrow your precious time today. My name is Hachijo Ikuko. I am mostly in charge of the actual writing. This is Toya. He mostly handles the drafting. Though the woman who called herself Ikuko was far older than me, she seemed to be unbelievably youthful. It wasn't because she was good with makeup or dressed like a younger woman. It feels strange to say it. There was a strange mystique about her, as though she was immortal and never aging. Then I quickly remembered that she had introduced my brother as Toya. Pardon me for asking, but are you two married? We are not married, but we have been together for a long time. True. Looking back on it, it really has been a long time. My brother smiled as he spoke. When I learned that, at least for him, those long decades hadn't been a period of isolation and loneliness, I felt an incredible sense of peace and relief. Before I knew it, he was staring back into my face. Well, I was just 6 years old the last time we met. It must be hard for him to find any traces he can recognize. However, I'm sure he'll recognize something just the same. We kept stealing glances at each other and looking away like a couple on a blind date. We were both at an age where outside appearances matter to us, even though we both knew we wouldn't let our polite exterior falter. This humorous exchange was extremely embarrassing. I thought it would be a fatal reunion, that we would hold each other and sob tears of gratitude together. However, reality seemed to be different. But that's fine. It feels like my heart will explode with happiness. Let's take our orders. Is coffee okay? What does everyone want? I prefer something that isn't so bitter. How about you, Miss Kotobuki? Oh, I don't mind. I guess I'll have cafe au lait. How stiff we're all being. Even my brother seemed to be finding it amusing by now. Well now, when she said that, my brother and I fell silent and sat up straight. Should I start, or will we start with you, Toya? I'll go first. I'm the one who pushed so hard for this meeting after all. Yeah, that makes more sense. As he spoke, he watched me calmly. I came here today thinking that you might be a certain person. Her name is Ushinomiya Angie. When I read your words and heard your name, I was sure that you were her. That's right. How long it's been since I last used that name? My true name is Ushinomiya Angie. I gave the exaggerated bow that I had gotten so used to these long years. We've both aged, haven't we, Oni-chan? I whispered this in my heart. Now it was my turn. With a quick apology, I fished around in my handbag and took out a photo. It was a picture from a trip I had taken to an amusement park with Butler and Oni-chan. I had many other pictures of us having a good time, but this one had the best shot of his face. I looked between him and the photo. There was no longer any room for doubt. Mr. Toya, your true name is Ushinomiya Butler's son, isn't it? The hands of the clock inside me stopped. I wanted him to answer with a yes. Even though I was already so sure, I was still about to burst with attention. And then when that instant seemed far too long ended, my brother answered. That's right. Unconsciously, I stared at my brother's face. With unbelievable quickness, he acknowledged that he was Ushinomiya Butler. My eyes immediately filled and overflowed with tears. I took out a handkerchief and wiped them away, but I couldn't hold them back. Oni-chan was alive after all, so why didn't he come back to me right away? If he had been there during my darkest days, it would have meant so much to me. Normally the thought would have made me curse my brother, but by now even that emotion was softened. After all, now that I was faced with the miracle of being reunited with Oni-chan, everything I'd felt before fell away with my tears. At this moment I was happy. I was never alone. I worked so hard for decades with that belief in my heart, and now I have finally been rewarded. By now I couldn't even stop my tears. For some time I continued to sob and sniffle. Watching this, my brother hung his head apologetically. Why didn't he come back to me sooner? It looked as though he was feeling regret for that. But I'm sure he had some sort of reason. He's probably here today to tell me about it and apologize. Already, just by him introducing himself to me today, everything inside of me has been washed clean with tears. I'm sorry. I must be embarrassing you. Oh, that was Angie. No, it's only to be expected. For several decades, you've been waiting all alone, believing that your family would return. I did believe. I believed you would come home, Oni-chan. I held out my hand weakly, and my brother slowly held his out too. Then I gripped his hand. Regardless of how many long years had passed, it was without a doubt my brother's hand. Once more I had to struggle to hold back the tears. Aunt Eva avoided the explosion accident by escaping the Kuwadorian. How did you escape the accident, Oni-chan? Ni-san. On that day, I escaped through the underground passage, the one that goes to Kuwadorian. I was told that an underground passage led to a hidden mansion on the opposite side of the island. However, the place we escaped to was a submarine base, not Kuwadorian. I don't know why my brother entered the underground passage on that day. At any rate, he went into the underground passage, and unlike Aunt Eva, he escaped to the submarine base. There he escaped the explosion and survived. After that, I got away on a motorboat. However, it must have capsized somewhere along the way. It must have. Please forgive him. Puya suffers from memory loss. His memory from around the time he was drowning in the ocean is hazy. Could it be that he forgot he was a Shidomia battler for a while? That is correct. Yes, that explains nearly all of the riddles. My brother escaped from the explosion, but either his boat capsized during his escape from the island, or he fell overboard. Afterwards, he must have drifted somewhere, wandered about half-conscious, and probably got into a traffic accident. On that day, he was lying on the road. If she had found me even a little later, I probably wouldn't have opened my eyes again. I believe you suspected that I was the one who hid you for quite some time. Hey, I've already apologized for that. This explains pretty much everything. Either because of the time he nearly drowned, or because of the traffic accident, my brother's memory was damaged. His memory probably came back eventually. However, by that time, I had already set foot into my new life as Kotobuki Yukari. Only a handful of people, including President Okonogi, knew where I was. Even if my brother wanted to contact me, there was a very good chance that he wouldn't be able to. Ironically, the name I abandoned when I decided to live in the future delayed my reunion with my brother for so long. In that sense, I am responsible. I did it to myself. However, I'm sure I received the message my brother sent me. That message was Itoi Kukuro. I realized that Itoi Kukuro, the forger who claimed to have reached the truth, was actually Hachijo Toya. Then I requested a meeting with her through the publishing company to question her about why she was so sure she'd reached the truth. However, I wasn't granted a meeting. In the end, I heard nothing from them, and it's taken all these decades for me to meet Hachijo Toya. If the publishing company had only passed my message on, we could have been reunited so much sooner. However, at the time, I was just a bourgeois girl who liked to throw money around. Why would they pass on my message when I just barged in with no introduction and demanded to meet the famous and popular Hachijo Toya? We probably crossed paths several times. If just one of those had worked out, if we had been able to meet, just how much would my life have changed? But this was fate. God had decided that a few decades were needed before the sibling reunion, and during that time my brother became one half of a mystery novelist. I became a writer of adventure novels for children. You could say that we achieved success in society. My brother and I were reunited after becoming successful. Now I could do nothing but thank God for bringing about this miracle. Why were they talking about God now? It's a bit unusual for a Japanese game. Maybe it was God's will that we would be reunited after achieving success as novelists. Back then I was nameless, so I never got through to you. We've met now because we've both become famous as authors. I think all of this was God's will. At the time, we heard through the publishing company that you wanted to have an interview with us. They said that a fan who discovered Itoi Kukuro's true identity wanted to talk to her. You must have had dozens of fans dying for an interview. You couldn't possibly go to meet all of them. No, They let us know that your name was Ushidomiya Ainji. At the time I had already realized that Toya's true name was Ushidomiya Battler, so I thought you should be given a chance to meet him. I refused. My brother said that to me. What did you say? I refused, because I didn't want to meet you. Once more, my brother spoke clearly. I was completely confused. I could only sit there in shock and silence, waiting for the words that were sure to follow. I believe I already mentioned that Toya suffered from memory loss, and then, one day... Why did you refuse when you knew it was me? I cut through Ikuku's words and questioned him directly. What reason could my brother have for rejecting me? I couldn't think of anything. That unpleasant emotion brought up long-forgotten feelings of anger inside me. You must have known that your little sister was living all alone, being crushed by loneliness, so why? Why did you refuse to meet me? My brother hung his head. It seemed more like he was lost for words than apologetic. There was nothing shy about his appearance, and I questioned him again in an even louder voice. When I asked for an appointment with Hachito Toya, Ito Ikugoro was already famous as a forger. Why did Ito Ikugoro's forgeries reach the truth? It's obvious. My brother, Ushidomiya Battler, explained to her what happened on the island in detail. So the appearance of Ito Ikugoro proves that my brother's memory had returned. Therefore, he can't excuse himself by saying that he didn't remember me. In fact, in reality, he didn't try to make excuses. On the contrary, he's openly said that he refused to meet me even though he knew who I was. Looking back, I regret what I did. You regret it? Did you ever try thinking about how I felt? For decades, for most of my life. Do you realize what feelings I had to live with? Various emotions swirled inside of me. I realized that I wasn't in control of them anymore. I could only moan to prevent myself from saying something I would regret. I feel deeply ashamed for doing something so cruel to you. That's why I've searched for you ever since then. For your sake and for mine, I should have met you much earlier. Then why wouldn't you meet me then? Miss Kotobuki, as I said before, his memory was damaged. No, perhaps I should say that his brain was damaged. It's an after effect of the accident. But his memory came back just the same, didn't it? Yes, his memory came back. However, that did not remove the after effects of the damage. I have Ushidomiya Battler's memories. However, because of the damage to my brain, I can't think of those as my own. Can't think of those as your own? Yes. It's true that my memory of my escape from the island is still hazy. However, I've remembered almost everything else. Like how those pink hair ornaments of yours that you treasure so much were something I won for you at the game corner in that amusement park. Yes, that's right. They're a treasure from when I was a child. I still keep them with me in my handbag. I remember a lot more besides that. I remember you giving Mom trouble because you hated eating seaweed. I remember that you tried to move it to my plate and trick her. And when... If you remember that much, then why can't you think of those memories as your own? That's the result of the damage to my brain. I've been to several hospitals, but it didn't do any good. You probably can't understand it. You can't know how painful it is to have your mind suddenly filled with the memories of a man you don't know. He was terrified that he wasn't himself anymore. His mind was filled with the memories of a man he didn't recognize, and they threatened to crush and overwhelm him. They must have been his own lost memories. However, his brain couldn't accept those as his own. Those days were painful, terrifying. It felt like my mind was being invaded. Tonight, when I turn off the lights and go to sleep, maybe I will never wake up again. Maybe a different man will wake up tomorrow morning and start living in life in my body. I can't count the nights that this terror tormented me. It's kind of like the ending to Danganronpa 2. Although I shouldn't say more, so as not to spoil people. I guess that was vague enough still. This is one scene where they kind of talk about something like that. Several times he tried to convince himself that they were his real memories. He told himself that he was Ushidomiya Battler over and over again. But nothing worked. I am me, Hachito Toya. No matter how much Ushidomiya Battler's memories flow into my mind, to me they're the memories of another person. I couldn't accept Ushidomiya Battler. As Ushidomiya Battler said this, he hung his head and his eyes turned red. Then, one day, when he was caught between himself and the other self he couldn't accept, he had a fit. Fortunately, his life was spared, but the after effects forced him to spend his life in a wheelchair. You mean he... Now I know why he showed up in the wheelchair, and now I know why he refused to meet with me. He was afraid that I would call him Big Brother. He was terrified of meeting me, fearful that the part of himself that wasn't him would grow still further in his mind. Even so, he fought. He felt that since Ushidomiya Butler was inside him, it was his responsibility to meet you. Thinking that, he kept on fighting in the space between his two selves. And then he had a fit. After something like that, it was only natural that Ikuko would tell him that he didn't need to remember Ushidomiya Butler anymore. Bit by bit, he tried to forget that he was once Ushidomiya Butler. Doctor's instructions and medication. With that and Ikuko's diligent care, he slowly began to regain his peace of mind. Even so, I thought I would have to meet you sooner or later. To be honest, I didn't get a wink of sleep last night. I was scared of meeting you. If I met you, would I die? Yes, I was afraid. However, here I am, talking to you normally. That's why I regret what I did. If only I could have met with you earlier. You and the Ushidomiya Butler inside of me might not have had to suffer for all those years. Just thinking that makes me feel so sorry. As the one who was once Ushidomiya Butler said this, he broke down crying. I already understood, so it really was true. Ushidomiya Butler did die that day. After all, didn't the witches say that he was dead so often with the red truth? How pathetic for the witch of resurrection, the witch of the future, who swore that everyone would be together always. Toya-san. Toya-san, please raise your head. Miss Kotobuki. They realized why I had called him Toya-san. By calling him by that name, I myself felt the agitation in my heart subside a little. Thank you. You must have suffered so much. Thank you, Mr. Toya. Thank you, Nissan. Thanks for pushing yourself so hard to come here today. Well, that's fucking sad. Holding hands, we brought our foreheads close and cried together for a while. Then we talked of the old days. He remembered many things vividly, even things that I couldn't remember myself. Each time they made me cry even harder. And he hung his head apologetically. I realized how much this hurt him, so I kept nodding in encouragement with a strange look on my face, something between a sob and a smile. Even if he isn't Ushidomiya Butler, my Oni-chan came back to me. Welcome home, Oni-chan. No, don't jump again. It had already gotten dark outside. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. It had already gotten dark outside. Even though he had come from far away, he was willing to stay as late as this. We left the store. It's probably best if I don't meet with Mr. Toya again. It will cause him pain, and of course I'll find myself bound to the past again. Even so, just one more time. There was one place I felt I had to show him. Mr. Toya, would you mind meeting with me just one last time? There's a place I feel I need to show you. Sure, I don't mind. From my handbag, I pulled an invitation written on a folded up piece of A4 paper. The pair of them spread it out. My, now this looks like a splendid event. Come to think of it, you've been involved in a lot of things besides novels, haven't you? Would you lend me your time just once more on that day? That way I think both me and my brother will be satisfied. I think it might also be a chance for you to free yourself from the weight of my brother's memory, Mr. Toya. I don't believe we have any plans for then. As long as we can finish the afterword for the book. Okay, Miss Kotobuki. We'd be happy to join you. Thank you, Mr. Toya. The cold October night was a reminder that winter was approaching. The two people who called themselves Hachijo Toya visited the city once again by Angie's invitation. A car stopped in front of a large building. Ikuko unfolded the wheelchair with a practiced hand, lent a shoulder to Toya as he got out of the passenger seat, and helped him into the chair. Looks splendid. The Fukuen house. I knew it. It's my first time coming here, but I know it well. I believe it's the institution for children that was funded by the Ushidomiya family. Madam Ikuko, Mr. Toya, allow us to welcome you to the Fukuen house. They were welcomed by Angie and some staff members. This was the Fukuen house, a welfare institution for unfortunate children who had lost their parents. In the past, this institution had been established thanks to Ushidomiya Kinza's support. However, that support had been interrupted and the Fukuen house had been forced to shut down for a time. Decades passed, And now the institution will be revived by the hand of Kotobuki Yukari. It's a pleasure to see you again, Miss Kotobuki. Thank you for inviting us. The two of us want you to have this. It's not much, but I hope the children enjoy it. That's not the reason I invited you here. My apologies. Don't worry about that. The tales of the future are always woven by children. After all, without them, the tale of humans will not continue. Children are treasures, so please let this be useful. Thank you very much. We have a form for donations, so if it isn't too much trouble... The Fukuin house had been drastically remodeled in recent years, in the hopes that children will one day be able to remember this as a fun place. Angie used her own money to massively remodel it into a beautiful establishment. By now she had accumulated a lot of wealth as a novelist, but even without that she had been saving the tens of millions of yen she got from the Shidomiya group each year under the name of living expenses. This money had been used generously to help the children. When they came into the entrance hall, a cheerful scene was spread before them. There were pictures and crafts created by the children. Every corner was filled with things on display. The contrast between this elegant building and the school atmosphere was amusing. The yells and laughter of kids running around drifted in from the distance. I imagine that many of the children come here hanging their heads in sorrow. To think that they could laugh like that, you really have done something great. Anyone can use magic to create a future and find their fragment of happiness. This is a witch's school for teaching that magic. The Witch's Dormitory from Sakutora's Great Adventure. Oh, how embarrassing. So you've read it too. We read straight through it right after our last meeting. I really must bow my head, not only to your talent as a writer, but to your warm heart. How embarrassing. This way straight to the end. Please. Pushing Toya's wheelchair, we advanced through the corridor and reached the great doors at the end. The happy voices of children came from the other side. Apparently this was where tonight's party was being held. There were several jack-o'-lanterns cut out of origami. Tonight was the Fukuin house's Halloween party. Here you are, Mr. Toya. I see, so it's trick-or-treat. He was handed a bag filled with candy. A teacher warned him in a small voice to watch out for rampaging children. Children? Haven't had anything to do with them for years. Please tell the children stories of dreams. All of us are welcome guests here. That's tricky. What should I tell them? When you're handing in your manuscript, choose your publishing company wisely. Don't pay any attention to reader polls. Then I'll open the doors. The children are waiting. Angie opened the large double doors. At the side of the hall, Toya opened his mouth in wide-eyed shock. This was the great hall of the Shidomiya mansion. No, that's impossible. This is definitely the Fukuin house, but his hall was just like the one in the Rokkanjima mansion. What a splendid hall. This is a replica of the hall in the Shidomiya mansion on Rokkanjima. Yes, I've reproduced it as well as my memory would let me. The details might be wrong though. No, this really is the hall of the Shidomiya family mansion on that day. And then Toya's eyes fixed on something at the other side of the room. It was a portrait of Rokkanjima's other master. It's exactly the same as my memories. The artist hired by Ushinomiya Kenzo to paint the portrait had a photo. I had him draw it again based on that. I was simply frozen in shock. The long, large table was filled with Halloween party food and surrounded with children stuffing themselves. The teacher said, "Everyone, we have guests." The children all looked at us at once, then stood up and ran forward. The broad smiles at the arrival of this long-awaited guest enveloped me. The smiles and eyes of the children welcomed me. Yeah, I know, all your faces. It's been so long, far too long. I'm finally here at last. You've kept me waiting, Battler. Sorry, I showed up pretty late. What are you doing, sitting in a wheelchair like that? Come on, I'll give you a hand, so straighten up. Beato stepped forward and held out a hand to Battler as he sat in the wheelchair. Battler slowly grasped that hand and rose to his feet. Listen, all of us are finally gathered here. Tonight the Golden Land will be resurrected in this place. An explosive applause greeted Battler. Everyone was there. Everyone. Then Beato hugged Battler strongly, tightly, as though she would never let him go. It is truly amazing that you made it back. I'm home. Sorry I took so long. I won't let go again. Yeah, I'm not letting go either. We'll be together for all eternity. Okay. Mu? Well, that went quicker than I thought, actually. I was actually thinking we would finish this on Sunday, perhaps. Maybe just reading too fast. Yeah, where's episode 9? I would still like to get all the closed rooms explained, maybe? What do you mean it exists? I thought this was all. This is the 9th episode. But is it an episode that actually explains all the murders? Because, I mean... I see a bonus episode to commemorate against the decade of Umineko. There's another story for that. In this game, or... Where is it? Where can I find it? Is it possible to get it right now? I offer up this tale to my beloved witch Beatrice. Oh. What do we get this time? Probably the hints. And the music box, I guess. Tips for episode 8. None. Well, thanks for nothing. So I guess it's not possible to get my confession right now. Or is it? First of all, let's use the music box so we have a bit more music than just whoa. Okay, I see. But like, why would you not put it in the VN itself? Is this the only thing I'm not quite understanding? Why you wouldn't just, I don't know, add it to this? Okay, so I don't know, I mean, I get that it can be super cool to reread it and figure everything out, that, or especially to reread it when you know everything. But still, I think that's the only thing I would... Okay, I see. Oh yeah, I gotta check that later. So, I mean, this will just be my opinion here on this. First of all, this was definitely very epic from beginning to end, and I really loved all the attention to detail and many aspects. How it would take its time with everything and not just rush through everything. You had lots of character building, and the whole atmosphere was great. I think I've heard some people say, like, after episode 1, some people were like, okay, you know, the boring episode is over, now the real fun stuff starts. But I think, well, at least atmosphere-wise, episode 1 was one of the best, in my opinion, because it had this complete sense of mystery and what the hell is going on, and everything was so creepy and you had no idea of anything. That was really well done in episode 1. I mean, after that it got very fantastical and crazy. Not that I'm saying that was bad. That was also amazing in its own way. Just in terms of mysterious atmosphere, I think episode 1 is one of the best, actually. Because they still haven't had any confirmation or denying of anything. You just, like, so many weird things and creepy things happen, and you don't have no idea what the hell is even going on. And then, yeah, then what I also liked about it was how it kept on surprising me. Like, every time I thought I could probably figure out what would happen next, it just completely did everything except the thing I expected to happen. There were lots of turns and things I never... lots of things I never would have dreamed to happen next, like Eva suddenly solving the puzzle, and yeah, I mean, Christian put it put it quite well when he called it, "I did not expect that to happen in the game." The music is fucking amazing as all hell. I mean, yeah, I don't think I have to say more to that. We can all agree on that one. And lots of the scenes were written extremely well too. Like just the whole fight scene over the Golden Land last time was epic as hell. The music was helping a lot there as well, but of course the writing was too. It was just, yeah, all working together really well. Like, I don't know how the writer found all the found the composers, but he definitely found the right ones for this. Let me think about. I also have to say I do like the sprites this Steam version uses. Perhaps even better than the PS3 sprites I've seen so far. Of course, that's probably because these are the ones I saw first. I think that's a typical thing where whatever you experience first is gonna be your favorite one. Just like how you often see that with Final Fantasy. Everybody has a different favorite Final Fantasy, of course, and often, most of the times, not always, of course, but often, it's the one that they played first. So of course that definitely plays a role in me liking these sprites a lot. But one thing I would like to mention as one of the reasons why I like them is that the PS3 sprites, probably some people who are huge fans of them will now hate me when I say this, but a lot of this PS3 sprites, the faces all kind of look the same to me. The female faces especially. Not that they look bad or anything, they look well and I really liked some of them, but they all had a very similar style, so much that it almost kind of, I mean, maybe I haven't seen enough of them yet, but like, let me look again at a few of them right now. Or maybe not, it takes so long. But I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, Aaron, you should know them very well, so maybe you can agree or disagree with me here. But the way the faces are drawn, like not the hair or anything, but just like the eyes and the mouth and nose looked kind of similar on with many people. And yeah, okay, I missed that. I probably missed that because when you typed that, I was in a different browser tab trying to find the PS3 sprites again. But yeah, so that's what I definitely like more about the Steam sprites. Apart from that, I probably like them because they were the first I saw. But there's like, if you want a neutral reason from me for that, apart from because they were the first one I ever got to see, it's that the faces have much more differences there, and that I think that added a lot more character in many cases. But yeah, and now I have to get to one thing that like some people probably care too much about sprite preference anyways. You're right about that. I mean, like, I think you can find people online who like totally hate the Steam sprites, like they're the worst thing that could ever happen to your eyes, and I probably wouldn't have hated it playing with PS3 sprites either, and if they had been the first one, for me, I would probably like them even more. So it's not like I really care that much about them. Just, yeah, want to give you my opinion on that. In episode 2, when Beatrice started ranting about love and I wanted to scroll back once and the text wasn't there, I have to look at that again. But okay, now the one thing that I personally, of course this is just me personally now, and I can see how lots of people would actually love it the way that it is done. But the one thing I personally find a bit disappointing is that it does not, in the end, give you explanations of. I mean, I don't need explanations for everything. I like it when there are some things that you have to figure out for yourself, but at least a rough going through the most important things is what I usually find most exciting about mystery novels and mystery games. And the game itself even brought this up. There was a discussion with in the Fugin house where when Shannon or Leon or whoever was talking to Gob, who was then still Beatrice, and they even talked about the mystery genre and how the greatest fun of the mystery genre was to get lots of mysteries and questions and lots of suspects, and of course you have to think for yourself first, and it's a great fun to come up with theories, but like one of the greatest funs is when in the end everything gets revealed and you can compare your own ideas to the actual explanations. It was mentioned as a fight between the author and the reader, but like there can be no conclusion to this fight if you don't actually get the answers and then can compare what you came up with what the author tells you. Okay, actually this is how it happened, and let's see what you got and let's see what I got. And I'm gonna read your stuff later. I just don't want to get my train of thoughts stopped right now. Yeah, I mean, where was I? Yeah, that's kind of what I love about mystery novels or games like Zero Escape, for example. I can also understand that there are probably some people who actually don't like this, who felt like the ending of Virtue's Last Reward, for example, was way too much text and like way too many explanations. But of course, that's a difference in taste, I guess. I personally love this stuff when you finally get to the part where all the mysteries get explained in detail. That's what I actually love the most. Because then I can have, as it was said in the VN itself, then I can have all my theories that I built up until then confirmed or destroyed, and also usually get my mind blown by things that I never expected. That's kind of a really cool thing. And that doesn't mean that I just want everything presented to me on a golden plate and don't want to think for myself. I could see some people would argue back against me saying, so you just want everything explained, you don't want to think for yourself. Didn't the game tell you that you should think for yourself? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I love to think for myself and come up with theories myself. I just want to have something at the end that I can then compare them with and see if I was right or wrong. If it then suddenly just ends without actually giving me the answers, I'm just going to be a little bit like, yeah, well, what did I come up with all the theories for if you don't actually going to tell me if I was right or wrong? So, personally, for me, that leaves a bit of a bad aftertaste, which is a shame because I felt, other than that, it was a very fascinating experience. But for me personally, it would have been a mind-blowing experience if at the end it would have explained everything. And I would actually, do you mind if I post your question collection of questions, Simon? And I will now read all the comments I just missed. We'll practically answer them. There's only a few more lines of logic to connect. Let's see. But I didn't even understand a lot of things still. Am I correct in assuming that Shannon and Kanon are just one person now? Was that right? And you don't have to hold back on spoilers anymore. So, I mean, I would love to just, yeah. Yukichi was always saying if you can come up with your own answer that satisfies all the truth, it's valid. It's valid, but it's not really satisfying. Imagine you're playing Danganronpa, for example, and you get all the clues and lots of big hints, but the class trial never happens for every case. And then the game ends, and the author tells you, well, if you can come up with an answer for all the class trials that fits all the red truth, then it's valid. It will be valid, but it will be, like, unsatisfying as all hell. Do you understand what I, like, does that make sense? I think that's the best comparison I can come up with right now. If you play a game like Danganronpa or something where you also have murder mysteries, and then you get all the clues, but you don't get the class trial with the actual correct answer, that would probably leave a very bad taste in your mouth at the end of the game. Also that, yeah. But that's like the best comparison I can come up with to explain what kind of disappointing feeling I mean. And why I think that, of course, you can come up with all kinds of theories yourself, and as long as they don't go against anything that was said, you can say, like, okay, that's how it happened, and that's going to be valid, as the author said himself, but what I mean is it's not going to be satisfying. Point of the story is that it's all in the cat box. You can't even ever say for certain. But you could still probably have kept that point by somehow revealing everything, or at least more, and then have Angie rejected. Like, I mean, she rejected it at the end anyway, so why not show it at least to the reader? Then it could still be in the cat box. It's just, yeah. But I mean, at least I'm glad that you seem to understand what kind of dissatisfies me. And at least it's good to know there are ways to get more. It's just, as I said, it's a bit of a shame that it wasn't directly in the game, because that is what I kind of expected, and especially because the game itself said, like, oh, mystery novels are great because in the end you can compare your own thoughts and theories to the answers the author gives you, and then it actually doesn't do that. It's a bit of a, yeah. A bit of a shame. Also, how about a different song? That's true. Oh, not that one. Maybe this one. Yeah, that was actually the same feeling we had at the end of Xenosaga 3. Where they... Because... personally, I still think if Xenosaga would have had all the episodes it was supposed to have, or at least all the explanations it was supposed to have, or all the explanations it has, if all of them had been properly put into the game, it might have even been as crazy as Xenogears. But in episode 3, after episode 2, the whole game got made much shorter. It was supposed to have like 5 episodes, and then it was just, suddenly it was like there were some internal conflicts in the company and stuff, and it wasn't making as much money as the company wanted, so it was cut down to 3 episodes. But they didn't even focus on explaining all the various mysteries and questions they brought up in episodes 1 and 2, and instead put most of those into a database that you could read whenever you felt like it, while the cutscenes mostly just focused on romance and a few other things. And while it was still epic as all hell, that was pretty much the same kind of disappointing feeling at the end, because when the credits were rolled, you were none the wiser than before. And you were like, okay, I actually thought I would get a bit more explanation for all the countless hours that I spent on the previous games. So yeah, I guess it's a bit like that as well. I want to play Xenosaga 1, 2, and 3, by the way, someday on stream, and I want to do it in a way that where I will keep explaining everything that's missing. But I will probably have to study the whole Xenosaga lore first myself, because it's just so fucking complicated. But it would be cool to do. And I would have to find the right moments where I would have to pause the game. Well, not pause the game, but be like, okay, now it's time for me to explain this or that before we continue. Yeah. Music is so good. So I guess that concludes pretty much my thoughts on this. If there was a way to somehow stream this bonus chapter, that would of course be cool. But if that's not has not yet been translated, then I guess I can't do that. But okay, I mean, so the way I understood everything was that Shannon and Kana were just one person. Although I'm still not sure how that's supposed to... Okay, however, I was about to say I'm still not sure how that's supposed to work, since Shannon has huge balloongas and Kanon has nothing, and so like if she really disguised herself as a boy sometimes, how would you hide them? But then again, I guess the sprites are just you don't necessarily have to take them for granted, like. And I mean Leon, which is basically Shannon. Leon showed that it is possible, because Leon still looks kind of more like a man than a woman to me. I kind of answered it myself. So by my theory was that Shannon was this one person, and in her head she like Sayo was the name, right? And let's call her Sayo. I think that was the name she had. And like Shannon, Kanon, and even Beatrice, like the Beatrice in that time, in her head that invited her to the Golden Land in her dream, for example. I think those were just three personalities inside her head. Perhaps even like truly like a multiple personality thing, after having gone through some bad stuff. And they like represented different things she wanted to be. Shannon was like representing the good maid she wanted to be. Kanon represented the less clumsy, the Kanon-like person. And Beatrice represented the witch being she wanted to be. And then when the whole battle thing happened, it like forced her to eventually want to commit murder later. I guess Zepa and Furfur then might represent Shannon and Kanon, being torn between male and female, because it was actually mentioned that one of Zipper and Furfur was female and one was male, but who knows who. And that would also explain why there were even less people on the island. But yeah, there's still lots of questions that, I don't know. I'll probably have to go and check out that extra episode somehow. I just wish it was available not only as a YouTube video, because I hardly can stream a YouTube video that isn't even from me. That would be kind of weird. But I suppose, yeah, I can play it in Japanese, but that's not really cool as a stream, and the vocabulary of this author is just way too... yeah, no. The vocabulary of this author is way too wide. So I wouldn't be able to translate that live. I mean, if there's a script in English, I could just read the script over the Japanese text, because that could work. But I would have to look into that and do that some other day. For now, I guess this is where we'll stop with this. I guess I gave most of my thoughts now. And yeah, we'll stop the recording here.